without a doubt, I think it's by far the best league in England.
How dare you score like that in the Premier League? Mission accomplished in the Premier League. The American.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first watch-along of this season. I am here joined by Mecca. Mecca, good morning to you. How are you, sir?
I am not too bad. I've had a milky cup of tea, so you can't ask for more than that on a Sunday morning.
What kind of tea? Let me ask.
Just normal Barry's tea, as we call it back home. Whatever goes into that. I've never questioned it.
Perfect. I love that. And just regular whole milk, cow milk, nothing special about it?
Coffee, mate, because it lasts longer.
Nice.
So it doesn't go off for months.
I like that. The last time we did this last year, it was Timothy and I believe it was Arsenal and United. I can't quite remember, but we had a good time. We had quite a few people join us watching the game. Obviously, we're not going to be showing the game on this screen here because that's illegal and we would get in trouble. So what Mac and I are doing, we have a shared screen that we're watching. They're going to be watching off of here. Most likely, it might be behind a little bit. Just because depending on streaming times and lagging times, it might be behind. So we might not communicate with the chat every second of the way, as it might spoil it. But I mean, I think ultimately, playing fantasy Premier League so much, I'm in a Discord channel for that, and all those guys somehow get their feeds 30 seconds before me, so I get spoiled all the time anyway. So for me, it's whatever. But we have Anon joining us here. Anon, hey boys, looking forward to this, as are we. And he'd like to see both teams lose today. Micah, how do you feel? Pretty similar?
Well, it's one of those games where literally any result makes us happy. If Spurs win, it's embarrassing for United at home to lose. If United win, it knocks Spurs back a few pegs in terms of that title race that Big Ange said they were still slightly part of. And if it's a draw, both teams drop points, and we still get happy days. So there's no lose. I'm sure there's a way VAR could make them both lose, though. To be fair,
yes, I mean in a sense, yes, they could. But it is interesting going into this, knowing that it's sort of a win-win-win situation as Liverpool fans, because any result that happens ultimately will allow us kind of the most contentness, I guess. Obviously, I think there's more a draw, as Sir Z says, and good morning to Sir Z, would probably be the perfect result. But either way as it goes, I think that we're going to be pretty content. Obviously, Spurs bringing back Timo Werner to the Premier League. So he is already slotted into the starting lineup. He's played no more than 200 minutes in the Bundesliga all year this year. And so I don't know what are you expecting for Timo on a second trip back to the Prem?
I mean, I don't know how it'll go in the future, but it's almost set up for him to score like hat trick or something like that, isn't it? And then fade into nothingness for the rest of the season.
Not score another goal.
Yeah,
just like Nicholas Jackson gets one hat trick and then he disappears forever.
Yeah, that's the one. I mean, that's a Spurs signing all around. If this was 1987, that would be a Spurs sign. If it was 2007, that would be a Spurs signing. And it kind of addresses the culture of, I hate to say, mediocrity that Spurs have been trying to get out of for so many decades. But it could work out for them, and if it works out for us today, just to have a bit of a laugh over Manchester United, it's all good.
Yeah, I think I know. Previously, back when the Werner rumors first came through a few years ago before he signed for Chelsea, I know there were a good number of us in the Discord that wouldn't have minded to see Werner in the squad, in the Liverpool squad at that time, because it felt like his style of play, what he was doing, would have worked under Klopp. So I wonder if this Ange Postecoglou ball that he's bringing on could do a lot better for Timo than where he was at before and with Chelsea specifically. But obviously, we won't see. I think most surprisingly is that he's just thrust into the lineup right away for me. I thought it would take a little bit more betting in, but if that's who Ange really wanted and Ange got him, then obviously he's got a plan. I don't know if it's going to come at the cost of Richarlison, who has been finding some form recently. So I guess we'll just have to sit and wait and see on that. Anand says, I think Timo is going to have a good stint for Spurs. And yeah, I mean, January window, you bring in who's available and who you feel like can make an impact for the last 5 months of the season. And ultimately, if it's a poor stint, it kind of gets forgotten about, right? I mean, there aren't many January transfers that we look back and go, oh, what a shambolic, terrible transfer, because it's sort of in a way kind of a die that you throw to be able to come up with something for the rest of the year.
Well, I mean, we could point to Andy Carroll, to be fair. Yeah. That was a transfer that didn't go quite as well as we could have hoped.
Fair.
But I do think that putting him in there probably speaks more to how much they miss Son and Madison.
Sure.
Their absences so maybe Big Ange just hoping for some sort of spark. The new kid is on the block. Let's all try our best for him, and then he's an unknown quantity to to be fair, their own teammates are an unknown quantity. So adding one more into the mix probably doesn't hurt them too bad, but it's something that they didn't account for maybe in their planning for the week for this game.
Yeah, that's true. Brian, good morning, Brian. Donuts, anyone? I don't have any on me. Macca, do you have any? No donuts anywhere.
No, I ate them all on Thursday night in 7 minutes. 6 and 7. Never again.
That's impressive. 6 and 7.
6 donuts in 7 minutes.
Was this on the
on the Thursday podcast right near the end because Tamuchin dared me.
Of course. No, there was the one we had a massive snowstorm here in the Midwest. I mean, most of the country got a decent storm, I would say, and now there's some bitter cold, but we got 14 inches of snow the last 2 days. So I was kind of snowed in and not really doing much other than just sitting on my phone. So I should have caught up on that pod, but unfortunately I missed the stream. Anand, you guys following Asian Cup or AFCON? To be honest, I checked the matches of what matches were going to be played today, but I haven't checked since. I do believe Egypt plays today.
I think Endo plays today as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, Egypt.
At the same time.
11 a.m. for Egypt. So they start in half an hour. And then Japan, they won today, 4-2. So that's all done. So Japan gets a win over Vietnam. Taki with 2 goals for Japan.
I think the only thing we need to worry about that game is whether Endo's still alive and walking.
Yeah. I think, I mean, the result is great for Japan, obviously. And, the match is underway here. And just confirm for me, Macca, that you can see it. I don't know if is everything going on well.
No, I can't see it there. I have it on my phone right now. Oh, there we go. I can see your cursor doing things.
Oh, but it's not on this actual screen?
Yeah, your cursor's on. The stream is frozen.
Excuse us, guys. So this is, obviously we don't do this too often.
I do have it on my phone just in case.
Okay. It just hit the first minute here, so I don't know where you're at.
I'm 30 seconds behind then. Just
okay. Anand says, Macca, are you aware of the bet you were signed up for on Friday?
I am not. I'll have to find that one out.
And if you could just fill us in, or if you want us to find out organically, obviously. I wonder why this isn't showing up. Oh, it is just the black screen. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. We are planning to do more of these watch-alongs to kind of have fun doing different types of streams and videos on this channel. So if you guys do like this sort of thing, please stay tuned as we'll try and do more and more of this. Brian says, I bet on Thiago ever scoring a Liverpool goal again. I imagine he's saying never scoring a Liverpool.
I bet on him never playing again.
I guess, again, that's the bet. Is he ever going to play or is he ever going to score again? Anand says, Brian said, if Thiago scores another goal for Liverpool, Macca and I will eat 6 donuts on stream.
See, I have the upper hand now because I have experience and I know not to get the chocolate donuts. Get the glazed ones. They're easy to eat.
Keep them glazed. Oh, Wow. Terrible start for Spurs. Absolutely terrible start for Spurs. I'll let you get caught up.
Well, I just had a cross that Onana picked out with the air here. And then the break from United.
Anon
Right
signed
down
up
to
to
the
eat
right.
8 in return because he knows he'll score. I mean, we all wouldn't mind a
Oh,
Thiago goal.
My word.
Yes, it's a rough start.
Yeah, that is a rough start. But that's Angie Ball. Like, he takes the risk for that to happen.
Yeah, and I mean,
to get the rewards for what he might be able to get his team to create up front.
and the one thing I wasn't necessarily so worried about was the defensive line today, because he had Van de Ven back, had Romero back there, Pedro Porro, and Udogie. That's kind of his four that he has for the season that he wants to have all together. So this was not the first thing, not the thing I was worried about this early, but huge start for United here. I mean, it's a great finish, to be fair. Højlund just...
Oh, that's a very good finish, but that's Keystone Cops defending.
Yeah, that was not good.
That's Brendan Rodgers defending, actually. That's what that looked like.
I mean, there might have been an extra body or two for Brendan Rodgers defending in the box, but that's okay.
True, yeah. But I mean, we talked about this on when I guest hosted the Premier League panel show with Spursy, is that prime Hugo Lloris was a lifesaver for them, and they need somebody like that back in goal. They need somebody who can, get those crazy saves for when things break down for that style of ball. That's what one of the things that killed Brendan Rodgers at Liverpool is that Mignolet was just not. He was the wrong goalkeeper for the style of football we were playing. He was probably great for Roy Hodgson. Had Roy Hodgson sign him because he was very good when there was two banks of four in front of him. Right. But a bucket of space between the back four and him, and he was hopeless.
And I do think, I mean, credit to Vicario a little bit. He isn't a bad keeper by any means.
No, not a bad keeper at all.
He still needs a little bit more time. It probably, I mean, right now maybe Spurs' best signing from the summer, if Van de Ven doesn't get hurt. Brian here, I guess he got that first Prem goal. Now he has that taste. Well, just because he got a taste doesn't mean you can go back for seconds. We'll see. I feel like obviously they hope that this will be the launching of his Premier League campaign here, but you never know.
It's a corner for Spurs here on mine, and that's probably where I would be worried if I was a United fan. Just because Onana is just he probably gives everybody palpitations every time the ball's coming into the box.
Yeah. You want tell me what the time is on yours, and I'll
5:27 on mine.
Okay, I just rewinded mine, and I'm at 5:27 as well. Then that way we're both at the same spot. Perfect.
It's weird though, because United look like they're going to sit on that 1-0 for a bit.
Yeah, not what you would expect, right? I mean, it just is it just maybe the nerves and pressure of going up early and wanting to hold on to that, because it just doesn't seem like that's typically the style of play that Ten Hag would want them to go for.
Especially against that team, like you want to be pressing because they're going to come out trying to get that equalizer.
Right. I mean, you've got eight Spurs players in your own half. You just make one break, and you've got a 3-on-3 going the other way. Brian says Spurs are wide open. Yeah, exactly. This is just exactly what we've seen all year. Well, high risk, high reward.
I'm pretty sure Ange's defensive sessions for coaching is just sure, he'll be okay. Let's do some crossing practice.
I feel like that's even kind to say that there are defending sessions. But you'll still have 80% of the country say that Porro and Udogie are better defenders than Trent, no matter how open they can be.
Mm-hmm.
Corner for United here.
Oh. I don't know. See, I don't know why. I don't know how any team can like come away from a match against United and be like, not be depressed that they haven't scored 5 goals against Johnny Evans. He wasn't even the first choice keeper at Leicester before we went back there.
Right. I mean, even if this was 12 years ago, I mean, you still feel like you could put 3-4 past them.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like on my Facebook page and the memories thing, one of the memories was this game was played, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. United and Spurs around about. It was yesterday's date, and Spurs lost. And I was like, that's the Spursy Spurs that ever Spurs, because they never beat United when you need them to.
Yeah, when you need them to. And then they'll pull off a 6-1 randomly for no reason.
Yeah. I think it's always worth chasing in any shot on Onana. I don't know why teams don't do it as much. He is a dropper.
Yeah. I wonder, I mean, maybe sometimes, as far as we know, manager directions. But you would think that if you're 8, 9, 10 yards away, you would just make that.
You just make the run just in case. You never know which one is the one he's going to drop.
Right, especially where Richarlison was right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably offside, but
to be fair, Richarlison is probably the one player is not going to make that run early. Somebody else will do it. See, it just strikes me that like both United and Spurs, and I think Big Ange is a better manager overall in England than Ten Hag has shown it himself to be. But if they had a good manager like a Klopp type and a more joined up transfer policy, they could actually make 2 very good teams out of this, like proper title challenging teams.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just flaws there that are part of their system. United's flaw being that they're United.
Do you feel like, though, with Spurs and Ange, is this sort of a flash in a pan kind of thing? Or do you think this is a sustainable way? If depending on, obviously if he gets one more year, gets some more players that he wants on this team specifically, do you think this is a sustainable way to play for Spurs?
I think the best comparison is Bielsa, and Bielsa's way of playing is very sustainable as long as you're replacing a third of the team every year or every 2 years, because the players will get exhausted eventually.
Right.
Which is what happened with Bielsa at Leeds. They couldn't keep up with it. And maybe Big Ange is smart enough to have seen stuff like that. But I know from watching Celtic when he was there, he doesn't change, and he kind of tends to keep playing the same players.
Mm-hmm.
See, those corners and the crosses coming in, on United are where Spurs might get a bit more joy than trying to Angie ball them.
Another corner here.
I find it highly ironic that they advertise golf on a soccer game. Like from a 90 million miles an hour game to, walking.
That's when you need a break, Yeah.
That's what, like, I'm not a huge fan of golf at all. I'm not any kind of fan of golf. Like, my dad played; he was a great player.
Yeah,
and he loved golf, but I just couldn't get into it. But I always thought, like, they have speed chess. They could try speed golf. where you don't just have to finish the 18 holes, you have to do it in the fastest time as well.
Yeah. Doesn't matter how many shots it takes. You just that you can't hit a rolling ball though, right? You can't just
run it has to be
with the club.
it has to be like a free kick in soccer. You have to wait for it to stop.
Yeah, I feel like mini golf can be fun, with in the right environment, right atmosphere, and maybe just going to the driving range would be okay. But yeah, for me, it's hard to do an 18-hole course and find a lot of pleasure in either watching or playing it. A good challenge from Adogi there.
I could see playing it just simply because it's if you're a competitive person, if you're a sporty person, it's another competition for you.
Mm-hmm.
But watching it, I couldn't get. Like my dad would watch like the US Open on the BBC and all that kind of stuff. Like they're just walking. That's most of the shots. It's just them walking from hole to hole.
Right. You'd have to physically be there, and even then, you just get to see the one person swing, and then you have to walk yourself to wherever else you want to go. So it's not a comfortable kind of ordeal.
It's like Formula One. Like I couldn't say too much about NASCAR because it's just going in a circle, but Formula One at least has courses. So you pay X amount of thousands of dollars possibly for a good seat, and all you're going to go is, Vroom.
Yeah.
Okay, that was great. I watched that 72 more times.
It's one of those where it's definitely it's better off. You're better off watching it on television than you are there because you get to see so much more.
But like live, because I know somebody who went to see not Formula One, like whatever the next stage down is, but that the speed of the cars are so fast in real life compared to the camera slows everything down, like the way it makes the soccer pitch look much bigger than it actually is, and that you literally just see it blow. And like it was
you can't even
the car I want to win. Is that guy?
you can't even make out who it was.
Yeah. Only at the end when it's the checkered flag and then they slow down. Then you go, oh, it was him.
Oh shit! No way, he got lapped. He's in 30th. Oh, never mind.
I don't understand players passing the ball into pressure. Like that's almost like a Guardiola thing. Like when the tiki taka Barcelona came in, like the player would have the defender on their back and they'd receive the ball. Like Brendan Rodgers' teams always do that, and they lose the ball. And it's almost like they forget that the players that were receiving the ball under pressure were like Xavi, Iniesta, and Messi.
Right. Compare them to.
Of course, they're going to be able to get the ball under pressure.
I want you to do things that Xavi and Messi did. Is that fine? Yeah, you got it. Okay, great, perfect. I think my game dialed back a little bit. Where are you at in the game, Mecca?
I'm 15:48, coming into a corner now for United.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. That was a good switch by Mainu. I will say, I mean, he's been if there's any bright spots to United this year, he's probably one of them.
Which one?
Mainu.
Oh yeah. But I was just looking at it just because they had the camera on him there. Hoyland looks like a 15-year-old pug.
Oh yeah,
he looks like he's going to put his hand in his pocket, pretend he has a knife, and ask for it.
It's you've seen Hot Fuzz, I presume.
I've seen what?
Hot Fuzz. Simon Pegg. Yeah. He's the kid in the pub where they ask what his age is, and he's just like,
54. What's your date of birth?
What year? What year?
19th of May,
Every year.
That's a great movie.
Oh, it's fantastic. One of my favorites. Yeah, there wasn't much that Pegg and Frost touched that wasn't good. In the mid to early 2000s or mid 2000s.
Even Paul was okay.
Yeah.
Paul, like it's just a small, gentle comedy about an alien.
Yeah, it wasn't.
If you take it for what it is, it's quite decent.
Yes.
The World's End, I wouldn't. That would be the weakest of the three, but it's still good. But it suffers for being compared to the other two.
Correct. Do you?
That's its problem.
So let me ask: Do you rank Hot Fuzz over Shaun of the Dead or Shaun of the
No,
Dead?
I like Shaun of the Dead a bit more simply because I grew up watching Spaced when I was in college when Spaced came on, the sitcom that they were all in. So they were all in Shaun of the Dead, like all the characters and all that. So I kind of like, and I also fancy Jessica Hines, Jessica Stevenson, whatever she was then. So she was in Shaun of the Dead. So that'll always get my vote.
Yeah.
But it's really funny, like watching Spaced, Hot Fuzz, and Shaun of the Dead, and then Ant-Man, the movie, the Marvel movie. Edgar Wright was originally the director for that, and then there were some creative differences, whatever they say. But his style is still in that movie. Every shot and cut is an Edgar Wright cut. And then you start to see all the Edgar Wright cuts in other people's like movies and shows, and you go, that guy is influenced more than he probably thinks he has.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely.
Oh,
who's that? Richarlison?
Richarlison, yeah. What did he say? Corner kicks. It's really weird. Both of these teams have players that are just utterly dislikable.
Yeah,
as personalities. Like,
I don't, because I know we've not us specifically, but Timothy and I have talked about this on the morning show, and it's so difficult because it goes beyond. Obviously, there's a bias with any team that you support, but the fact that even if I didn't support Liverpool, I can't think of any players that would be so dislikable as there are around the league in other teams. Like maybe Robertson to some rubs people the wrong way. He's a little bit of a shit house, but outside of that, the club does such a fantastic job of the personalities they bring in. I don't know. It's just so weird to think that it's so easy to find such dislikable players everywhere else. But
Robertson's very funny, though, if you listen to him in the interviews. He has personality. Like these players don't have personality. They're dislikable and they have no charisma.
Right.
And even going back to Brendan Rodgers' era, like even the Suarez thing, whatever, he still managed to divide the non-Liverpool and non-Manchester public fan base about that. Like, because he was such an entertaining player. Like he was cheeky and he was skillful. The Brendan Rodgers, like Sturridge was like a media doll. Like he was just such a happy, grinny, like Raquel's yogurts or whatever it was that he kept advertising in interviews and kept saying, I have nothing to do with this, but everybody should buy Raquel's yogurts. Like Coutinho, just a likable, like whoever was behind the scout. We know who was behind the scout, but in terms of like making sure personality was a key performance indicator for who we brought in, did a really good job, and I'm glad that it's continuing.
Yeah, because
people are jealous of Salah, but he's a nice guy. Like he just comes across as a nice guy.
Yeah, genuinely. So you can't think of anything. Sometimes some glares at his teammates. Other than that, what can you think of that he's done that could make you dislike?
Yeah, but if you look at him, he always smiles after it. Like it's hard to be like, it's like he can't be angry at you for too long. Although we've yet to see his reaction to anybody mocking his frosted tips.
we got to wait till he comes back. I think that's probably going off of the Robertson and the personality comment and then the frosted tips comment. I don't know how this connected, but when Gravenberch was signed and he came in, and the clip of Robbo saying finally a good Dutch player, like kind of that, those are the moments that you really enjoy. You have Van Dijk and Gakpo just sitting there. Like, what the fuck?
Well, that's the Timo Werner we all know and love.
Ah, there we go.
A clearance over the bar.
14th row.
Worthy of Johnny Evans, that was.
I feel like, back when he was here a few years ago, that would have ended up in the 26th row. So the fact that it only ended up in the 14th, I think we're making
Yeah, that's progress. Yeah, that's experience.
Bruno Fernandes and Richarlison are so dislikable. Yeah, yeah, they are. I feel like, I think last year, Timothy and I were going around asking people between, especially for Timothy, between Richarlison, Bruno, and Neymar, who would be your most disliked. It was a tough battle because it wasn't an easy answer.
No, it would have been between Richarlison and Fernandez for me, because Neymar at least is a good player, like a really solidly good player. He's just an asshole.
Yeah, and I mean
the other two don't give you much consistency in terms of quality.
And the other two, I mean, we watch. I'm not gonna say week in and week out. They're watching these teams, but we see them more regularly because they play in the Premier League. Whereas Neymar's there's never been a moment where I've thought about him outside of any international competition. I just know Timothy just dislikes Neymar so much. Brian says Werner channeling his Chelsea days. Well, he's back in England, right? You gotta give him some time to come back.
And he's in London, so maybe he's a bit confused.
I don't know if this is Timothy speaking in third person, in the fact that they're saying that he hates Neymar, but I believe this is what he's alluding to. Welcome, Timothy. Good morning.
At least what else I was thinking? Gravenberch looks like the ice guy from The Incredibles. I think it's The Incredibles, one of the animated superhero movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's the way the beard is shaped, like the way he sculpted his beard.
Yeah,
like that little pencil beard thing.
I like that. We need someone to Photoshop Grab's face on there.
Mr. Cool is or Frozone, that's it. That's his name.
Frozone. Oh, I see Lucius Best. Oh, that's his actual name. Yeah, okay. Lucius Frozone Best.
That was a convenient middle name his parents gave him.
They just knew. Another yellow coming out here for it's time for Bentancur. I mean, I think, yeah, that's.
You're a fashion guy. You're a fashion guy, right?
I mean,
I get the fade and the beard thing. The fade and the big beard just doesn't look right because it makes the beard look like it's stuck on from your dad's shavings from the sink.
I've been heralded as the fashion guy. I never once took. I never admitted it or never took on the title myself, but on behalf of Timichin claiming me as the fashion guy, yeah, I agree. I don't like the fade into the big beard. If you're gonna have the fade, the beard should also, in a way, match the fade and be just as thin. But I'm just sitting.
To be fair, like you're the fashion guy. I'm gonna be the donut guy for the rest of my time here. That or the type 2 diabetes guy, one or the other.
What life is about being remembered. It doesn't matter how.
Yeah, that's true.
If we can sit here in 30 years' time and your name comes up, you've done something right.
We are all of us in the gutter, but some of us are looking up at the insulin needles. Oscar Wilde, I think, said that in 1952.
I think I was watching Whiplash yesterday, and there was a scene in there where they're talking about a specific drummer, Charlie Parker, and the dad of the main character says that his idea of fame isn't, being dead by the age of 36 on a heroin overdose and blah, blah, blah. And the son goes, well, the fact that we're talking about him at this dinner table, it lends me to think that, he was successful. And that's kind of the battle that you can have, right? The debate you can have is what does scream success at the end of the day? Is it getting diabetes from a bunch of donuts, or is it living a boring life and never being remembered?
Exactly.
You gotta put a poll up there for American Scouts.
I should be. Look, you know, the morning show is sponsored by Reckless Coffee. The Thursday show should be sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts and Medicare.
Affordable insulin for all. I mean, that's but without going into too much, obviously that should already be a thing anyway. But you know, I digress. We're watching a wonderful match of these two top talented teams. We shouldn't be getting into.
It's like they've settled into a bit of fear, both of these teams. Like you know, they're trying not to give away set pieces in their half, and Spurs are trying not to give too much space away at the back.
Almost content with where they're at right now.
I think Ange is like turning to his coaching staff. Like, did we say Timo Werner or did we say Kai Havertz? Something's not right here, boys.
He's a bit shorter than I remember. In case anyone didn't catch it earlier today, Aston Villa drew against Everton 0-0. Alex Moreno had a pretty nice goal that was chalked off for offside. It got a little chippy towards the end. I don't know what to expect here. I don't know if tempers will flare as much, but it was. I don't know if you got the end of that game earlier this morning, but it did get quite heated. Brian says it's crazy how fast Rashford's form has dipped. I mean, I think you can credit that to United's form overall. When Rashford's playing really well, chances are United's playing really well. He's not one of those players where if the team is playing poorly, he's still playing well. He's a guy that definitely feeds off of the rest of the team, at least from what I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years. So I think if United start to find a little bit of form, we see the Rashford comeback that we saw last year.
It's amazing how different that is, though, to like somebody like Curtis Jones, who seems to be, as I think we said on Thursday or the post match last Wednesday, like he's almost like taking on the Steven Gerrard role of, you know, it's not going too hot, boys. Give me the ball and let us start sorting things out.
Mm. And those are the kind of qualities that. A shot from Johnson. That you know, it's how do I say it? It's easy to have a very talented player on your team with the amount of players in the world and the amount of accessible athletes in the sport. It's easy to find a talented player. It's difficult to find one that has the mentality of a talented and class player, right? I mean, because mentality is one of those difficult that you can't coach mentality. Your players either have it or they don't, and you start to really see the differences at this level of who has that mentality and who doesn't.
I think that's where Brendan Rodgers kind of went wrong, because you know, like he's a very good technical coach. I'd never take that away from him, and it would have been nice to win that league with that team because it was so hugely entertaining. But for all his talk about, you know, character and all that stuff in his interviews, he didn't seem to be able to spot it in any of the players. Because if he did, he wouldn't have touched Mario Balotelli with a barge pole. Yeah. And he certainly wouldn't have taken Christian Benteke, because apart from all the technical flaws he had in terms of coming back from injury and not having any speed, he just didn't seem like a player that you could count on when the chips were down. Whereas he did seem to take a dislike to players who you could tell were standing up to him a little bit, like Daniel Agger, say, for example, who doesn't suffer fools gladly as far as we know from his post-career comments and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you can't. I was involved in the game for a long time. You can't coach mentality. You can set up the environment to foster those who have the mentality, so that they're always encouraged. But if a player doesn't have it, there's so many factors that go into it that are beyond the coach's control that you have to bring it in. I think Rafa was always on about that, wasn't he? He would only bring in players that had captained the team somewhere, because that showed that they had that leadership quality, which is probably why Lucas Leiva was, like, you know, such a surprise, because he wasn't the best player. I think he was originally brought in as an attacking player, wasn't he? But he's a winner and a leader, and players love to play with him. And I don't mean that in a funny way. but they liked that he was there. There was always a marked difference between when he played in defensive midfield and when he didn't, especially in the Kenny Dalglish and Roy Hodgson years. Paulson brought in to do pretty much the same job and devoid of any personality whatsoever, regardless of what his technical skills were. Paul Konchesky, devoid of any personality whatsoever and technical skills. But the difference was stark. You bring in winners, you start to win.
Yeah, the locker room makes a huge difference, and I think for anyone who hasn't played in any sort of, I guess, organized setup where you're not, I guess, sorry, I was watching the screen and then I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I'm glad this is live because I can't edit any of this now, so it's okay. Just, I guess, in a way, I was part of teams. I was part of average teams that had great locker rooms, and I was part of very talented teams that had terrible locker rooms. And I would choose the former over the latter 9 out of 10 times. The latter can provide you maybe, a couple more wins a season, but is it worth the rest of the team and the rest of the morale and the chemistry and everything? I don't know. And I mean, obviously you said you've been around the game for a long time, so I don't know if you can speak on experience in that sense. But that's just for me, what I've seen, what I've been part of, is that it's tough to be in a locker room that isn't gelling. You got everyone backs against each other kind of deal, and everyone playing for themselves, and it's a tough thing to take when you're in that locker room.
Well, when I was a youth player, I played for one of the biggest teams in Ireland, but I was the sub. There were so many more talented players ahead of me. I was literally you can have I was a good worker. I actually was quite skillful and fast, but I was tiny. I was a tiny kid, and I had no stamina. I could sprint quite well, but I could only sprint 10 times a game if you stuck me on for the full 90 minutes, which we had to play in those days. Full adult rules at 10 years old and 11 years old, 12 years old.
Amazing.
But the difference was in Ireland in those days, which is a thing that it took me a while to understand when I moved here and started coaching here, is youth teams, especially over in Ireland, are basically the kids from the same streets. Literally one or two, 3, 4 blocks from each other. So they all know each other, they all go to school with each other, they're already friends. Whereas over here, you're coaching club soccer here, you're getting players from all over the state practically, especially if you're a big club, and they're paying a lot of money to be there. So there's always a lot of parent stress. I'm paying $5,000. Why is my kid not playing? Because he's got one leg and he's in a wheelchair. We're not supposed to play him. But
he's got the heart.
The best teams he's still better than Marwan Fellaini though. The best teams that I've coached, the best teams I played in, the leadership was always there. But in terms of coaching, I got a reputation for being a firefighter kind of coach. I'd get all the bad teams because I could turn them around. And I don't have any tactical genius. We played I'm a huge Jack Charlton fan, obviously, because he was the Ireland manager when I was growing up and brought us our best successes. But I'm a huge fan of the long ball game, especially for teams that aren't talented naturally. So when I went in, the first thing I did was, and I learned this early, so because I'm usually a quick learner, they were browbeaten by all of the previous coaches. Instead, they try and get them to play the neat tappy football that they weren't able to play. And then when they'd lose, the coach would be right there. You're the worst players I've ever come across. And their confidence was on the floor. So I would come in and go, we'll just play. We'll play this way. We'll play that way. We'll pressure. We'll get the ball long. Don't worry about that part. But you guys are good players, and we're going to show you by the end of the season. And if we win one game, we've done 100% better than last year. But it never worked out that way because the leaders would go, oh, okay, I can step forward and lead. And then I'd give them permission to do it. You don't need me telling you what to do. If you can figure a problem out, figure the problem out. Don't come asking me all the time. So they took ownership of it. And then those players would bring all the other players along. And then suddenly that one win that we were looking for this season, came before the midway point. And by the end of the season, they're like challenging for some qualification or challenging for a tournament. And that was a huge lesson to me, is that I didn't need the best team to see improvements or to enjoy coaching. I just needed teams of players that had that winning, that confidence to go, we can take anybody on. We may get our asses handed to us 7-0, but you won't want to play us again next week if we ask you. And I think that's what we get so right at Liverpool. Look, you don't want to play a Liverpool team twice in a row. It's just going to be the hardest work ever.
100%.
Which this United team don't have, which is why I'm not surprised about how they're faring.
Which makes the draw against them equally more disappointing and frustrating. But yeah, it's definitely in this sport. You can have obviously a guy like Messi or Ronaldo, guys that can change the game, but at no point were either of those players able to carry the whole team by themselves. Very rarely do you have one single player that is able. Oh my goodness! Sorry, Udogie just nearly had a fantastic goal on his own half. But yeah, it's you need more than just one great player to make the team work, right? You need several. You need to make sure that everything's gelling in the right capacity with the right amount of players, because it's not a sport like, let's say, basketball, where you only have 5 guys on the court. One guy can make a huge difference, right? You can literally give the ball to that one player and he can do whatever he wants all the time. It doesn't work that way here. And so it's definitely important to be able to come up with a squad of quality players rather than just a couple of world-class players with a bunch of players around them that just don't seem to make sense, which go to your point with Liverpool and the way that we've set up and over the last 7-8 years. Oh, that is 2.
2-1 United.
From an almost own goal by Udogie to a good goal by Marcus Rashford. Speaking of the guy that's out of form, showing up on the screen right now, Marcus Rashford. An assist for Højlund. So, yeah, there we go. If there's any fantasy Premier League players and you have Højlund starting, then you've bagged yourself a double return on a week where there's no Haaland and no Salah. So could get really interesting in the fantasy realm.
It's just like they're so disorganized at the back, Spurs, even in those tight moments.
Just way too. I mean, you've got. Look at that. You've got 5 guys, and you can't make an impact. Yeah, it's not great.
But the great thing about this game so far is that I don't think United can necessarily hold on to a 2-1.
No, I don't think it ends. It doesn't end 2-1. It's going to be either I feel it's going to be like a 4-1 United game or a 2-2, 3-3 kind of game.
Sorry, I'm glad I only had a cup of tea now because I have to stare at Wayne Rooney's face for 10 seconds. Like this Spurs team reminds me of Newcastle under Kevin Keegan way back in the 90s. Like if you let them get at you, like they'll just outnumber you everywhere. But if you can weather that, they're just going to leave you so many gaps to attack into that you don't even have to be a great team to score goals against them. But to be fair, that is the Spurs way. So that's always been the Spurs mentality. So he probably suits them quite well, their fan base.
I just it's been surprising seeing Werner's not playing up top at all. He's hugging the sideline, playing about 20 yards away from the box. Just does not seem like that is the best way to suit his strengths.
I wonder if that's just a safety thing, like mentally for him. He doesn't quite know where he fits in the system. So that's a nice, obvious place for him to be.
In AFCON news, Egypt scored in the second minute against Mozambique, and they're up 1-0. Rashford here again. Oof.
Spurs are rattled.
They need that. They need halftime here.
But this is the thing, like for me, like just as an observer of soccer teams and the styles they play, there are times in the game. It doesn't matter what style, like or how many passes you want in the possession. There are just times where you got to get the ball down the line and out of pressure, and then reorganize yourselves within 5 seconds. And it always annoys me when teams don't do that. Like Brendan Rodgers' teams don't do it. That was that. Like as much as I wanted to support the guy, that it just annoyed the hell out of me. Whereas at least we know that we will get a long ball out and we will probably do something with it because we have Nunez and we have Salah up front that have the speed on them, or Diaz. But you can't keep playing out of the back for every second of the game. Right. You're going to get hurt from it.
Right. Sometimes it's worth resetting, letting your defense get reorganized, and just taking that moment, taking that beat. Oh, Timo.
I mean, to be fair, that was expected. Even when the shot left his foot, you knew where it was going. Closer to the corner, flagged on the post.
He's got so much space too. Brian says all these teams trying to play out of the back. I mean, that's the meta of the game right now, you know. And this is we've seen phases of the sport where there's certain styles of play that dominate that era, and this is probably one of these eras that we're going to see this for a while. It's come at the expense of true number 10s. So I wonder if the next iteration will be sort of a return to what we saw maybe late 90s, early 2000s. But it's tough because players, they've evolved differently. I'd say it's hard to argue that overall players are a lot more athletic these days. They might not all be as technically sound as they were, but they're definitely a lot more athletic. And you have to mold your game around that, and it's difficult to always make sure that the styles of play match up if you don't have those kinds of players.
I think there's always every action has an equal but opposite reaction to tactics. So like tiki-taka is dead as a sole thing because counter-pressing figured tiki-taka out, because as the players were getting their positions in the positional style, if they lost the ball, that's where their gaps were, and you could hit them on the gaps. So now they got a bit more cagey about it, and they don't spread out until maybe the next phase of the possession. But I think direct play, a version of direct play, will probably come back in soon enough as teams keep trying to play out the back and failing.
Yeah,
and especially with us to an extent, and Spurs and all that, and all these teams trying to play offside traps again, which is something I never thought I'd see after the 80s. But that's what's happening now, is teams are playing offside traps. I mean, that happened in the 70s. That's when the long ball in England, that's when the long ball game came into its own, because you just had to have a fast sprinter. Get the ball over the top into the space, sprint onto it, and score goals.
Yeah.
Then teams started dropping back. So what they did was they got the 6'5" players up front and then just played the long ball up to their heads. And it worked to an extent. It'll never trump skill on its own.
Right.
Ooh.
Brian says it's great if you can, but most of these sides don't have the players to suit it. It creates unnecessary pressure. That should have gone in. Who was that? Romero?
Oh.
How am I behind now?
Yeah, that's really weird.
I just all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute. I'm 10, 15 seconds behind now, but it says mine's live, so I can't even go forward. My goodness. Trevor, welcome, Trevor. And against Spurs, teams that run an offside trap are going to get 20 offsides a game with Werner and Richarlison. Yeah, unfortunately, Werner is one of those players, sort of like Nunez, that gets caught offside quite a lot.
Maybe like Uruguay is such a small population, they can't find enough linesmen, and that's why they don't call offsides over there. Because Suarez was a little bit the same, if we remember his first season with Kenny Dalglish, the first half season, he was constantly offside.
Which is why a lot of the fan base is giving Nunez extra time, because they think back to the Suarez evolution and they go, well, he just needed that year. But at a certain point after 18 months, if you haven't figured out the offside line by then, the excuses are much more difficult to swallow. Hoyland's going in the book.
But look at his reaction there over the next few seconds. He just looks like a teenager. But what did I do?
Fine, send me to my room. I've got my video games in there anyway.
That's why I never understood suspension from school as a punishment.
It's a reward.
You mean I have to go home for a week and not think about school? That's great.
The punishment was in-school suspension. You'd have to go to school, but you'd have to just sit in one single spot for the entire school day. That was
even better. Because you go to sleep then. You don't have to do chores.
I guess. All right, folks. So we're going to take our halftime break here. I'm going to throw this little banner on the screen. Hopefully I know how to do it. It's going to say ASTV taking a halftime break. See you in about 15. Scroll across the bottom ticker. And voila.
Look at that technology.
Okay. So I'm going to also throw this on here. All right, folks, we'll see you in a little bit. I'm going to just go ahead and do them. Who needs Graham Lasso and John Champion when you've got Mecca and myself?
Exactly. And a sartorial change.
I thought about my shirt
some of us
too.
have to work after this.
Work on a Sunday.
Yep.
Oh.
The Lord rests for no man.
Well, let me take off this banner here, this ticker, excuse me. Perfect. And this is probably a good time to also let you guys know to check out our sponsor at recklesscoffeeroasters.com. If you missed out on some coffee before the new year, don't fret. There is plenty of coffee left for this year for all of your caffeine needs to get you through 2024. Trying to get through 2024 will also be United and Spurs. Spurs not having much off the bench here for options. So kind of, they need to get it going with this 11 that they have here, because the only guy they can really have off the bench that can change anything would probably be Brian Keel. And as I say that, it is tied up. It took 50 seconds. The commentator's curse, I think whatever the opposite of it is that I just put out there right now.
The Watchalong blessing.
Yes.
It was Onana showing him where the goal was there. There we go. Yeah. Timo's got an assist, so he's already had an impact.
I was going to say, there it is. I mean, Evans has to close that down, right? I know Onana's at fault there too, but Evans just sort of just let him do whatever he wanted.
It's Johnny Evans doing Johnny Evans things.
I guess you can't expect much more than that. Oh man, right over his shoulder. Rough. Poor goalkeeping indeed, Brian. I agree.
Erik ten Hag just looks like he's going to ask you for some spare change,
because United could use more change, right?
Yep. I wouldn't give them 20 cents if it was the last 20 cents I had and didn't need it.
Let me refresh this and see what timestamp are you on?
I'm at 48 exactly.
Okay. Perfect. Now we should be good.
I said that the last time.
And then something changes, and I never notice when it does change, unfortunately. Trevor saying Timo Werner already more goal contributions than Anthony, and that is correct. That is one more goal contribution than Anthony has all year. The theater of dreams quickly becoming the theater of memes the more we go on this season.
Johnny Evans he looks like he's the quiet, nice one in an auto mechanics.
It's just, you look at him, you're like, you sure he's supposed to work on my car? He just
that guy.
He's a nice guy and all, but I don't see it.
He just asked me if the carburetor was in the steering wheel.
He showed up here 6 months ago asking if we were hiring. We said no, but he just never kind of left.
I think he's related to the Costanzas. Why couldn't United have been this open when we played them?
They didn't want to concede. It's they were scared. I think maybe that's it. They just
that could have been it. Yeah.
When from the past 2 years, the aggregate was what, 18-1, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
You're not gonna try and be too explorative because you don't want to get hit with 6 1/2 again. That was a good ball.
That was then added to by a dreadful ball.
Yeah. I feel like Brennan Johnson also hasn't been great this year, unfortunately. I felt like he fit the mold at Spurs. I felt it was a good signing. He hasn't really found his footing yet.
I'm not surprised. He has 2 last names as his name, Brennan and Johnson.
It never works.
No. It's like Smith McAllister. It just doesn't make sense. That's what's happened. There's a rip in the time-space continuum because of his 2 last names, and that's why you ended up being behind my time.
Brian says good control by Werner, probably on that ball from Johnson earlier. Even that slow roller there, Onana didn't hold that in. Brian says that
for a game with some stakes. Sorry, but for a game with some stakes here, they just seemed like 2 mid-table teams playing for nothing almost.
Do you think maybe they're reserved in a way where, yeah, like you're saying, it's not necessarily they're not looking for that winner. They're not looking to necessarily kick into the second gear because they're both comfortable with. We saw this again when it was 1-1, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously another goal would change that, but it's remnants of what we saw after they tied it up in the first half. And Brian says that it's because they are a couple of mid-table teams.
That is true, to be fair. But like it's like they're afraid. Both teams are afraid to take the risk to try and dominate the game. Maybe they both know they leave too many gaps at the back. But sometimes it's worth the risk.
Yeah.
Like that's what you love about Klopp. Like he will go for it.
Right.
Like
for better or for worse.
For better or for worse. But like we watched the Fulham semi-final, and I like to watch the other teams' reactions and stuff like that. Or sorry, the FA Cup. I mean, the one against Arsenal, and they're all, oh, what is he doing? He's putting on 2 kids, but he still went for it. It wasn't like let's just give the 2 kids minutes and play this out for a replay, or if they score, they score. We just went for it, like.
Right, I think
what better way to do it than give 2 young players like just go at them, just go, just do it.
Yep, I think Timothy and I were on the Monday morning show after that, saying that Klopp. What I felt like and what we were talking about was that he was in a position where he didn't want to replay, so they're going to go for it with 2 kids, whether they concede one or whether they end up scoring one. So be it. It's just not worth it to sit this one out for another 15 minutes and watch them pass the ball back and forth to each other, not interested in taking advantages of anything.
Yeah. I will say now, just to go back way to the start, you can't dislike Eriksen. That's the only thing about, you like Rashford to an extent as well, but you can't dislike Eriksen for everything he went through.
That's fair. Oh, Paul Bickler joining us this morning still here in the Midwest. How can you justify spending the money United have on Martinez and then start Johnny Evans over him? Yikes. I've seen things pass through Congress and the time it takes Evans to close a shot down.
That's why you don't bring your car to Johnny Evans. You won't get it back for a month.
I mean, Martinez, though, in his defense, and I just want to throw up saying that he is coming off of an injury, so perhaps this wasn't the right match to throw him out there. But you would expect that if he is fit, this is sort of the argument that everyone has. If you are fit to make the bench, you are fit to start the match kind of deal. Not everyone agrees with that, but I feel like this wasn't necessarily the right fixture for Martinez to come back, and maybe just needs that 15-minute cameo before he can get back up to speed and start.
Anytime somebody says cameo, I just want to say word up at the end of it. I mean, to be fair, United do have the ace up their sleeve of Scott McTominay.
He has scored some very crucial goals this year. So not just for club, but for country as well.
The Andres Iniesta of Old Trafford.
Scott Andres McTominay is how we like to call
Sorry,
him.
the Andrew Iniesta of Old Trafford, I mean, the guy who runs the chip shop down the road. That's Eric Ten Hag there going, here's what I want you to do. When you go on the field, figure out what it is I've been trying to tell you since like last year, and then see if the other lads will do it as well.
And also, do you have some change to spare as well?
Yeah. I haven't eaten since Wednesday. Do you have some change to spare? I haven't eaten since Wednesday.
They say it's the nerves, but I don't worry about anything.
Remember when Varane was the big thing?
Yeah, a decade ago.
Yeah, we were lined up for him as well.
Was it 2 years? 2 years ago when he made the move over?
Yeah, something like that.
Time has been just sort of warped recently, honestly.
That's why, according to Brian, the doctor's around somewhere. There's Johnny Evans there thinking, I could be collecting a pension now. What am I doing?
Well, I mean, hey, team was getting closer and closer.
I mean, to be fair, that wasn't a bad attempt from that angle with that ball.
Yeah. And here is Scott Andrew McTominay. Ericsson coming off.
If that had dipped more and it went in, that would literally be one of the contenders for goal of the month, if not goal of the season. So we can't knock him too bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough to beat Garnacho's bicycle and then McAllister's strike against Fulham as well. Having those two right now currently are probably sitting 1-2.
What must you be thinking if you're Christian Eriksen? Like, I'm the creative hub of this team. I'm going to be replaced by McTominay.
That was that was a wonderful skill by Højlund, honestly. That's a lovely touch.
But that was the high school touch. That's the high school move that all the high school boys players do. That little click up under their heels.
He's still not fooling us. We know he's 15. Bickler saying, feel confident this is a record for average age of center back pairing. I wonder what that record is. I'm gonna use the internets and try to maybe we're not one of those channels that has a stat guy just sitting around waiting to find anything we need. So we have to do it ourselves. So
we have a donut guy though. He's sitting around waiting to order me and Brian donuts for Thursday.
We have to just wait till the end of the year to see if Thiago ends up scoring.
I mean, he has to play to score, so I think me and Brian are safe, to be fair.
As things stand, you are safe.
Well, things have to stand because Thiago can't.
Hopefully Anand is not watching still. Nope.
Forget stats, guys. We need a rim shot guy.
I can.
We need somebody we click up and they just go.
I can be the. I can be that guy. Brian's feeling pretty confident. He says, "Anon better be hungry." Can't even see. That's great, D. Van de Ven.
He has the most Dutch name ever.
Mickey Van de Ven.
Not Mickey Van de Ven, yeah. My name is Mickey Van der Ven from the Amsterdam Van de Venge. There are 5 million of us. My favorite shoes are clogs.
Oh. And McTominay. Oh my goodness. That would have been some goal. Yeah, Mickey just says
he's got acne. That guy's got acne. Him and Hoyland, they must be sharing like what do you call those strips you used to get in this country? What were they called? You only got them over here. They were always on the comedy shows. There's strips you could put on.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness.
Like I'm just thinking of Married with Children now because it seemed to be always mentioned on that.
Very late 2000s. I'm trying to remember what it was. I can't remember.
Stridex?
No. I don't. All right, well, here is Lissandro Martinez coming back on.
Where's BJ with his trivia when you need him?
Yeah, I can't even figure out stupid ages here. Johnny Evans.
Stridex and Clearasil. There you go. Trevor knows.
Thank you. Clearasil. I think that's the one I was trying to think of. But I guess Stridex was. I didn't remember Stridex personally, but.
Well, I'm old, to be fair.
I feel like between Varane's 30, Johnny Evans is 36, so 33 would be your average age there. I have to say I don't think that would be the oldest center back pairing in Premier League history.
I mean, it's hard to tell because, like, even back in the early days of the Premier League, you might get some old because the game wasn't as fast. But like 31 was considered retirement age for a central defender at that point. You know, if you were playing at 30, if you were playing at 37, there was something wrong.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get a James Milner in those days. So it might not be far off in the Premier League area, at least.
33 is quite a bit, actually. Yeah.
Like it's really funny for me as somebody who grew up through this the late 70s and early 80s and into the 90s that at 32 years old you're just thinking, you know, this central defender is getting to his peak now.
Nice move by Dogie there.
That was really badly done, and that should be a penalty, or at least reviewed.
Bickler says, could have sworn Varane was 35. Probably thinking of Silva at Chelsea. Yeah, Thiago Silva is 35, 36. I'm sorry, Thiago Silva's 39. Wow, okay.
That looked a lot worse from the other angle.
He's off. Great defending. Well, I just want to take the time to say thank you again for everyone who has joined so far on this watch along. This is the first one that we've done this year, second one we've ever done. We are going to try and plan to do some more of these as the channel continues to grow and as we find opportunities to do so. So thank you for everyone that's joining in, and feel free to throw a comment on there. Give us, if you want to learn something about us, ask us some questions, whatever. Treat this as a Q&A, whatever you want. We're at your beck and call, so to speak. This is a fun idea to have some interaction between us here at American Scotch TV and some of our faithful that join us for all of our shows throughout the week. So thank you for being on, and hope to see many of you come back for the many other opportunities we'll have throughout the year.
If anybody watches the Thursday podcast and they're wondering, the answer is 45 minutes before it was evacuated. Don't do 6 donuts in 7 minutes, kids.
I actually, there was there's some fantasy leagues that exist, right? So I'm in a league with some friends from college in a basketball fantasy league, and the person in last place has to do punishments every year. And last year, unfortunately, I came in last place, and the punishment was a McNugget Power Hour. And if you're not familiar with the Power Hour, what that is, it's essentially a shot of beer. I mean, a Jesus Christ, a shot a minute of beer, because you do an actual shot a minute for an hour, you're gonna die. But it's a shot of beer every minute for an entire hour. So if you can imagine what the McNugget Power Hour was one McNugget every minute for 60 minutes. So 60 McNuggets. Now, if you could do it on your own time, this is what I learned after having to do this. I think I'd be able to get through it a little bit easier. But the fact that you have to only eat it at each minute mark made it so difficult. Once you got to that 45th nugget, you were done. There was nothing else you wanted to do. And yeah, I can sympathize with the donuts, because the McNugget Power Hour was one of the most disgusting things I've done. And I've done some pretty horrendous things. I've eaten an entire bottle of ketchup before. You did the 3 bananas and 2 Sprites in one sitting thing. This is really dumb stuff when I was younger. But yeah.
What's that one?
What's
3 bananas and 2 Sprites?
Try it. You can't do it. It's just the combination of the two does not work in your body.
How much Sprite is it?
The cans. So like the
can. Okay.
Whatever this. What is this? 12 ounces. Yeah.
So the 60 nuggets thing, you have to have. You can't like slam them. You have to eat at that rate of 1 every hour.
Because if you could slam them, I'd do like 15 at a time. Wait a couple minutes, do another 15. But the fact that you would hold off each minute made it more painful. I would just end up towards the end. I was just chewing them and then just putting another one in my mouth because I couldn't swallow it. Especially the last 10.
Because they were cold by then, weren't they?
They were cold. Yes. Nice thing was there was sauce that you could use. Yeah. So I did use some sauce. Bickler, fine, I'll play. I just went CeraVe, but what's the best facial moisturizer for a guy at my advanced age? This is a Two's question. Obviously, no offense, Mecca. Paul, it might surprise you. I don't take care of my skin as well as I should. But I will say there is some product that I use that is called, I'll get back to you on that. Brian Shelton says 60 nuggets sounds rough. It was indeed. Please don't ever do that to yourself. It was not fun. Paul, I'm gonna remember this. If I have to go downstairs and figure it out, I will. But I just can't think of it right now. I've heard just classic soap every night. Just wash your face. That tends to work really well. But everyone's skin is different, right? I think that's the hardest part, is that you don't really always know if this specific thing works for you, because you chemically, your body makeup, everything can be a little different. So what works for me may not work for you and may not work for others.
I used the sweat from a Balinese maiden.
I I mean, and honestly, the skin is glowing. So I think if anything,
that's what she says she is now. Down when she's carting all of those garbage bags full of cans, she says she's a Balinese maiden. But I'm not too sure, to be fair. The results aren't backing up her claims.
Where is this?
If you're going to do a long throw down the line, you don't need 3 different run-ups to figure out where it's going. You know where it's going, as far down the field as you can get it.
It's the it's like in video games you have that power up bar. Every time you make it just goes up a little bit higher and higher.
But this is the danger for Spurs, for the big Ange teams, that like you can see the lethargy and the tiredness and the fatigue get into them sometimes, and they look shattered now.
And now up front there, it's sloppy. You've got 4 guys covering 5 yards of space right in front of the box. It just
He fell backwards really hard. I think some money fell out of his pockets. I shall run onto the field and look. Eric Ten Hag looks like he washes your windscreen at the traffic lights, but he uses somebody else's spit for it.
You boy, come here.
There's a bit of a lull in the game now, which makes me think a mistake is going to cost somebody here.
Well,
like a bad pass.
That might be one right there. Oh, that was a good ball. Is Van de Ven hurt again?
I mean, Spurs are really slowing the game down. So it's possible they don't want to do something they have to recover from really fast, if that's the case.
I'm going to put a comment here post a comment here for Bickler. I needed the help of my wife, but Heath, that's the brand. Worth checking out.
I do hope their tagline in their commercials is "The Heath is on." If it's not, it should be.
Well, it's brilliant, and I don't think they thought of that.
I mean, this is almost like statistically almost like our game, except with goals. Like Spurs are dominating all the metrics that you'd need them to dominate on. But you're taking no risks. They just don't have enough quality, I don't think, to punish Spurs' risks at the back.
And you would think, I mean, on paper, Rashford, Højlund, Garnacho sounds like enough quality, but fortunately, I mean, the game's not played on paper, so.
Look, zero word to see from Spurs there at all.
I mean, there happened a couple moments. There was that Bruno ball from 2 minutes ago. That Rashford ball there. I mean, that ball is there. If it's just a yard better, then and there's the classic Timo offside that we loved and missed. See, I don't understand why the flag goes straight up for something as close as that, but then when they're 2 yards off, they're told they're not going to raise their flag until at the very end. That's just that consistency is weird. Timothy, what is going on? How do we have moisturizer links in the chat? Don't worry about what happened during halftime, Timothy. We'll talk about it in tomorrow's morning show. Can't leave you guys alone for a few hours, I swear.
We're an all-encompassing soccer channel.
Yes,
you get your soccer, you get your analysis, you get your facial healthcare tips.
You get a little bit of everything because we want to appeal to all.
Essentially, we're trying to get the message out to Everton fans that they should wash
your face. Timothy, I don't know if you have room to talk, given our experience last Monday and the cream pies. So I'll leave it at that.
I think I want to go back and watch last Monday's show now.
It was one for the ages. I will say it included myself actually Googling on screen and not thinking about it at the time, old-fashioned cream pie. And, it could have gone a lot worse than it did. So, yeah, escorts and cream pies on Mondays. That's pretty much what our morning shows consist of now.
I'm sure our sponsors love that.
It
truly is reckless.
This game has a weird 93rd minute winner written all over it. I just don't know for who. Richarlison going down like a sack of potatoes.
I'm pretty sure Timo Werner, one of Timo Werner or Darwin Núñez will be the first players to ever be offside in their own half legitimately. There'll be some loophole that they found, and they'll be one of those to be the ones that figure it out. Oh, nice touch.
Oh, it's the best thing Brennan's done all game.
Brennan Johnson McFerguson Davis. I think that's his full name.
I think my phone's listening to me. Uber Eats just sent me a little message saying, "Your next delightful delivery awaits. Order now."
As long as it's Uber Eats that's delivering your cream pies there.
Only 4 stars or higher. I don't settle for anything less.
See, I know a few Spurs fans, like in my family back home and stuff like that, and I couldn't imagine being a Spurs fan. It's just so many things snatched away at the last second.
Yeah, it just
not literally the last second, but you get so much hope up for a season and it always falls apart.
And it feels like you're in a constant state of when are they going to score against us?
Yeah.
Right? It's not a matter of if, but when.
They are the Brendan Rodgers of English clubs.
Brian stepped away for a sec, and escorts and cream pies. Really? It was a throwback to last week on Monday. Because our Richarlison didn't even get touched. You've got to retroactively be able to go back and give these guys yellow cards for that kind of stuff. Yeah. You have to. Otherwise, what's the point?
Cheers, mate. Next time you want to play some soccer out there.
That's good. Yeah. I thought about it for a second, and I thought, no, this could be clipped forever. It's the internet. I'm not even going to try.
But to be fair, we get bombarded in Ireland with lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of Australian television shows.
Do you really?
Yeah, like Neighbours and Home and Away and Shortland Street and the Country Practice and the Sullivans. And if you're watching and you know any of those things, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If it's mid-afternoon, it's an Australian soap opera.
It's just that final touch that's been hurting United.
But that's what I mean. Like their three forwards have names that should be capable of more than what they give, but they're not actually that great. Like together, like there isn't even any link up play. Like I know we complain about Nunes and stuff, but he makes things happen for other players. Even though we get frustrated at the simple tap-ins he misses, he's just as liable to create a fantastic through ball for Salah in the next moment, or set Gakpo up. Like there's nothing that these three do that connect for United, which seems to be endemic to the entire team. There's no partnerships built up. There's no little units that you can, rely on to do something.
Why didn't Johnson play skip there? That's frustrating. But yeah, it's you can have chances that go awry if you're able to impact the game in different ways. But if you're just someone who is wasteful anytime you have the ball in the final third and you don't make an impact anywhere else, it's really difficult to have faith in you on the pitch. Timothy says it reminds me of NBA. Every attack is an isolation play. Yeah, that's just it's one. It's not all for one. It's one for all, or something like that.
I can't believe there's not. Like, to be fair, I don't know whether it's the game or because we've been entertaining each other for the last. I didn't realize there was only 8 minutes left of normal time. That's flown by.
It has flown by, to be fair.
And I don't think it's the game.
It's the delightful company of Mecca. That's pretty much it. Because I'm just here to ask some questions and stutter on camera. Mecca's here to be funny and actually entertain the people watching us here.
And develop type 2 diabetes from the donuts slowly.
That's just on Thursdays. Well, interesting now that Werner came off and looks like he's going back. He was on that right side for a bit. Never mind. I thought they were shifting things over. Every day is donut day for Mecca, says Timochin. Pat on the back for setting that up in post-match. I think there's something more there that I'm not sure of. But pat on the back, I suppose.
It's really weird to me, the death of the 50-50 fair shoulder.
It's taken out the physicality completely.
Yeah. Like it really does. Like for me, growing up in Europe and like hearing, like once we got the internet 2 years ago in Ireland, now once we got the internet and like reading like American criticisms of soccer and that it's not a physical enough sport, but that was for people who never played it way back in the day in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. But obviously anybody who's played knows it's an incredibly physical game. But if you take that kind of stuff out of it by legislation almost, then it does become a non-contact sport.
Yeah. And, part of it, Timothy says, because everyone just holds their head and falls down to get a foul these days. Yeah, and so if that's what's expected now, obviously you're gonna milk what you can because you're gonna get that call. You're gonna get that call, and that goes also to, in fact, to the points of having guys stay up. They don't get rewarded for getting fouled if they stay up, so now they're going to go down because it's difficult to justify not going down if you're not going to get the call. if you try and stay up. So there's that. It's that tough balance between both of those things.
There must be no better or no more enraging thing for a United player than to be shouted at by Bruno Fernandes of all people.
Especially depending on at what moment, if he stopped running or whatever the case, whenever it was. Was nice by Poro. Oof. Brian thinks this game is done. I think we have one goal left.
Yeah, I agree. I think we do.
And I think
I still hold it's got to be like a slip or a bad pass or something. It's not going to be a well worked goal like that Liverpool youth goal there that everybody was been watching on YouTube and TikTok there. The passer does. It's not going to be that silky smooth.
No, it's tough to expect 90 from Van de Ven after coming off that hamstring injury.
I have to say though, it is kind of like brave of Big Ange to be playing two new signings on the very first game with probably no training at all.
Yeah, I mean, because Dragusin just came in
yesterday.
Like he just flew in 2 days ago. I feel like. Timothy says not watching the game, but score makes it look like it was entertaining. Based on you guys, though, does not sound like it. They pretty much there were 4 moments in the game, and they were just the goals. There was a Romero header that went off the crossbar, but I think otherwise after the teams equalized both times, we saw quite a lull in sort of both sides comfortable playing for that draw.
It was a celibate game. That is probably the best way to put it.
Van de Ven coming off, I would imagine so.
I do like that we changed that, like the game changed that rule to players can go off at the closest touchline instead of like walking across the field.
You can still like this right now. You can still play with that a little bit as you're making the diagonal, but you're going to that touchline technically.
Yeah, but like you'd have like when you had to go back across the field, you'd have like somebody go like the if it was the captain, the armband guy would be like in the far corner flag.
Yes,
yep. They would shaking everybody's hands.
They would see their number come up and they'd turn around and walk the other direction, like pretending they didn't see anything. Like, oh, me? I'm coming off. What are we thinking? 4 to 5 minutes is where I'm at, I think.
For injury time?
Injury time, yeah.
Yeah, I can't see it being any more than 5 at the most.
If it is a draw, Timothy asks, is either team pleased with that? Michael, what do you say?
I think United are probably more pleased than Spurs. Mostly because Ange came out and said that they're still in the title race, and like an away draw isn't terrible, but given how much they've dominated the stats, at least, and they should be coming away with the win. And they may do so if this counter goes the way they will hope.
Yeah, I definitely think Spurs will be a little bit more disappointed based off of the chances they've had and the dominant game that they've had against. I mean, United have had a couple counterattacks that have kind of sputtered out, but there really hasn't been much. United might be more disappointed because obviously they're at home and feel like they should play a little bit better at home, but they've played a little bit like tails between their legs a bit against the Spurs side, which I would never expect.
I mean, but this is the new United.
They are.
They've lost that sheen of invincibility.
Trevor says then they have to come to a complete stop to clap to the crowd because clapping and running simultaneously is too difficult. Yes, we know. I mean,
I've tried it. I fell over. That's why I have this dent in my head.
That's it. That's why I couldn't make it any further in life in sports, because I wasn't able to do two things at once. So I get it. Brian says United's probably more pleased. Arsenal are the happiest, and Newcastle. Yeah, I'd say maybe the clubs around these two teams are probably going to be most satisfied, given that neither club is making a 2-point jump, an extra 2-point jump, I should say. And I haven't checked AFCON since the first half, but Trevor says Egypt is now down to Mozambique, which is quite a shock. I think I'm in a weird spot where maybe not everyone agrees with me. We would love to have Salah come back earlier than later, but having Egypt go out a lot earlier than expected, obviously it's still in group play, this is a long way to go, but having Egypt go out earlier than expected would be a lot worse on his psyche. So I would much rather have Egypt go farther than not. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I think it could hurt him a little bit, but he'll get over it. We'll just give him some hair dye for his frosted tips.
Timogen says, aside from the freaking KDB comeback, which of course he came back to be the mutant that he is, this has been a solid weekend. A draw there would have been a perfect weekend with everyone losing points. Yeah, I think the fact that Newcastle was even in the position to even steal points from City there, I think that was good enough. I didn't expect it to be that close, to be honest.
I don't think De Bruyne is going to be injury free for the rest of the season. I could see him being out again. Like, he's not young, like he's not
right.
He's got, there's always that risk that he comes back a bit too fast for his age.
Yeah, and I mean Holland missing time now till the end of January. I mean, it's just it's not as I guess I'm not as worried as I have been in previous years. Obviously, City's always going to have a great second half of the season, but there are some holes in there that there haven't been in the last couple of years. Timogen also
donut holes, you would say.
What's that?
Donut holes.
Donut holes. Yeah, I mean, is that what if you have to eat these 8 donuts? Can you pick what kind of donuts they are specifically, or do they have to be picked out for you?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I don't eat.
Anand's going to have to let us know, because if that bet was made, we're on your behalf without you even agreeing to it. We got to kind of know all the details of it. Ooh, who was that?
It was McTominay.
Oh no!
If he had less acne in his face, he'd have been able to jump higher.
If that was Nunez, the world wouldn't have gotten over that.
I mean, it was a good, solid technical header, just not in the right area.
Oh goodness, that should have been it.
Yeah, it was a defensive header almost.
Oh, that's tough.
Ten Hag is going to swipe those 2 bottles of Lucozade behind him as he's going. You guys aren't going to drink these, are you?
He's going to trade it for some Stridex and Clearasil. Take this instead.
I think this, whatever the next kick is that goes long, is going to be the last one. There we go. Good game, mate. Good game.
Classy taking the glove off. You want that skin to skin interaction. I mean, it's important.
He knows where the hand sanitizer is afterwards.
As you can see on the screen, I mean, not on our screen, but if you're watching, United then 7th, Spurs 5th, 8 points between the two. All in all, I mean, a game for a few chances, not much else to write home about. I think both teams a little disappointed with what they could have come from that game. I think Spurs a little more so. Any final thoughts, Mecca, on this first watch along of the year?
I two. Number one, well, three probably. Number one, Spurs are not in the title race. They're just not. There's too many flaws in there. But if they get the right signings for Big Ange, they could be a surprise team next season. And United they're just so mediocre. It's not even funny. They're just so un-United. Like they're playing like City used to play before they got the millions. Whenever they did get promoted into the Premier League, like they're not too sure whether they're going to challenge or whether they're going to be in the relegation zone. And then the third is, as we said, apart from the City thing, result, fantastic weekend for Liverpool.
Yeah, I think Sir Z also here, good result. Yes, we agree there. Hopefully, it's one of those weird things that Timothy and I have talked about it a lot. Is obviously players' mentalities are different from game to game, but you hope that you don't see the players seeing these results and thinking they could sort of take their foot off. Not that they would, but taking their foot off the gas a bit, playing against a team like Bournemouth then, and not necessarily feeling like it's that important to get a huge result given what transpired the past weekend. So hopefully it's something that doesn't cause any negative play next weekend. But thank you everyone that joined us. We had quite a bit of people here throughout the game, hoping to do some more of these throughout this year. Maybe you'll see some more of our faces on this screen. But thank you, Mecca, for coming alongside and entertaining me for the last 2 hours. That flew by, honestly. And so from all of us at American Scouser, thank you. We're going to be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And then back Monday tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central as well for the evening show. Cheers, Brian. Thank you so much. Everyone here at American Scouser, thank you so much. And we hope you guys have a wonderful Sunday. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. Take care.
Without doubts, I think it's by far the best league in Europe.
How dare you score like that in the Premier League? Mission accomplished in the Premier League. The American.
Scouser.